Hello everyone, this is Lord Cucumber. Okay, so as you may or may not know, I'm teaching myself to code in C Sharp, and I actually tried to give myself homework. Basically, every week or 2 weeks in this case, I give myself an assignment and I have to complete it in the allotted time. My homework for this past week and a half has been to create something on screen that works as a program that you can manipulate with the mouse, and there's graphics involved. That's what I wanted to do. So something very simple where you can have some sprites, basically the images you see on the screen, that you can manipulate with the mouse. Now I've created this little program called Amazing Button. It's obviously a joke, but it's actually functional. Okay, well, a couple of things before I show you what this program does. Yeah, a couple of things that I ran into were interesting for anyone who's interested in this type of thing. First of all, I discovered that C Sharp has some serious issues when it comes to recognizing the Windows mouse button as something you can collide a sprite with. I had to really figure out how to do that. And it really doesn't know sprites as such. I used the Monogame expansion for Visual Studio, which enables you to get into the XNA framework, which is the sort of the games programming framework that Microsoft set up for C Sharp. Sort of an extension, if you will. And I had to figure out how that all functioned, which was a job all in itself. Anyway, I got to a nice little tutorial on how to add textures or sprites using Monogame. There's a lot of tutorials out there. If anyone is an aspiring programmer, there's a lot of explanations that will give you great insight in things that you can and cannot do with this programming language. And I was actually surprised that there was a lot of stuff that I had to sort of invent from scratch or figure out from scratch. All right, so my biggest challenge, in fact, lay not in the fact that I couldn't get the mouse to click on something, but in the way it did that. The thing is, as you can see here, I hope if this mouse over works, it actually shows up in a recording. Well, I think it does. If you look at what I did, is I made a button that was round. As you can see here, this is like a round button. This is when it's pressed. So that's all cool, but basically the Monogame system works with hitboxes, literally boxes. So if you have like a box around a circle, that means if you click like in one of the corners of the box, the circle, the sprite is also going to count that as a hit. Or you're going to have to make the square smaller to fit inside the circle, and then you're sort of leaving the edges of the button out, which is also not what I wanted. What I wanted to have, practically, was a hitbox in the shape of a circle. Now that's where the challenge lies in this particular bit of programming, and I figured it out after a very long time. I'm not very good with maths. And it had to be something that had a center point, like a circle does, and a radius of an equal amount of pixels extending outward, covering the coverage of the sprite. So I wrote a little bit of stuff myself, and I'm going to show you this. This is a separate piece of program. I'm still not quite sure how it works, but I got it to work. Also thanks to a tutorial. Right, basically, I also made, that was my second thing, I included that here, is you have, the mouse basically returns, if you have like the mouse location, if you put it in the middle of the screen, and you ask C Sharp to tell you where the mouse is, it returns a point, and a point is basically a float, which is like a 1 point something or 0 point something number. So basically a number with brackets. I'm not sure how to explain this, but it's not a full number. It can be a number with percentages, for instance. Yeah, I'm not sure how to explain that one, but the problem with hitboxes is hitboxes react as a vector, and a vector is basically based on a integer, and an integer is like a whole number, like 1 or 2 or 3, instead of 1.0, 2.0, which are floats. So the two don't really communicate, and I had to create something that turned a point into an actual vector by comparison. Like, it's not completely one-on-one, but that's this bit is for, and I'm still not sure again how it works, but I figured it out and I got it to work. So yeah, that's a bit strange, but that's how that works. And this is the actual structure, basically a sort of a constructor called circle, and the circle basically gets the center and then gets the radius. So those are two numbers that you mention after the circle thing. I'll show you how that works in a bit. For the center of the circle, basically it's like a coordinate amount of pixels, 400 by I don't know, 200 for instance. Gets you like a point somewhere in the middle. Float is a radius. Yeah, I'm still not quite sure how this all came together, but it did work for some reason. So the radius is a float, and this is a integer, and that somehow worked together. I still don't know how, but it did. It sort of mixed that and said, okay, sure, fine, whatever, it works. And then it actually makes a little bit of a calculation here that says if the distance from the center to the edge, basically to the radius, the edge of the radius, is equal or smaller than the radius, you are inside the circle. That's what it says here. If I recall correctly, that's what I did. Basically, you say the point minus the center. Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna explain it. And then of course there's the other option, where it's greater than the radius, and I don't know if am I swapping those around? Anyway, the deal is, you say basically it's based on the distance from the center of the circle to the edge of the circle. It's either in or out. That's what you're saying. And that's what it does here. So that's how I sort of figured out how that would work. And it goes in any direction. That's the beauty of it. Anyway, back to the game. The thing that I built. Yeah, I wanted to show you the actual circle drawing thing here. So basically, where is it? Where did I draw the circle? It's in my logic somewhere, of course. Yeah, here it pulls in the sprites. Oh yeah, I made a couple of things happen. Basically, it says if somebody presses the escape key, it exits. That's sort of a default thing in Monogame. I didn't enter this. This was already there. So great. It exits the thing whenever somebody presses escape. But while that's going on, we've got the circle going on here at a radius of 65. Basically, I discovered that my images were 130 by 130 pixels, which is really good because that means they're like perfectly square. And I just took the center, being like the center would be at 65, and the center button thing would be in the middle of the screen. I basically placed my button in the middle of the screen, the window that we're working in, so that would be equal to the middle of the screen. Of course, this is kind of cheaty, as I said, cheap cheaty way, but it worked. And mouse position would be, well, the get state mouse position, as I said, that's a float position. And then I had to convert that float position to a vector, basically to an integer, and that's what happens here. That's the other bit I showed you in Circle that I built. That's what it does. So that happens here. So now we have MP being an actual integer taken from that float. So we know that that's a coordinate as well. Alright, now it then checks whether or not the mouse pointer is in the circle. If my circle contains, there's a contains command that I wrote into the circle thing, the mouse pointer, or the mouse pointer point, whether if that's true, and if somebody clicks it, then something happens. And if it doesn't get clicked, something else happens. So basically that's the code, that's what happens. It updates the game and it draws everything. This is a draw command for all the sprites and where they are supposed to be located. And yeah, let's run this thing and I'll show you what it does, show you what I built. And I completely understand how this functions for the most part. I mean, I'm still not sure how I got to some of the parts, but like I said, it amazingly works. So let's start this. Hopefully. Yep, here we go. Amazing button. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to press it. Not always works. There we go. It's pressed. Ta-da! Now it updates so many times a second, thousands of times I guess, that it doesn't always get the first mouse click. But if I click it again, it's back again. Yay! Now I wanted to enter a happy clicky sound, but yeah. I didn't actually get to that part yet. I'm still figuring out how to add sounds with Monogame Develop, especially like one-off sounds. I have no idea yet how to do that, but I'll figure that out. So that's where that project is right now. I hope you guys enjoyed this little video, this little update. I'm learning. I'm getting this. I'm getting the. I know the difference between a float and integer. A double, whatever, all those things are now fairly clear to me. And yeah, I'm still sort of contemplating what kind of assignment I'll be doing next. But who knows, I might do something with a keyboard and maybe a small game. That would be interesting. A demo. Anyway, thank you all for joining me. For any of you who are not interested in programming but have stuck with me up to this point, you are awesome. Anyway, see you all next time. Bye bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you ever so much for watching. Please consider leaving a like and or comment, and please also subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you again. Cheers.